Wow, what a beautiful day for a ride out. Well, here we are, the first proper full day out on the bike of 2022. So, ordinarily when I do a long day on the bike, I like to have a plan, but there isn't one really today. I've got a couple of sort of historical sites which I'm ashamed to say, as a Norfolk resident, I've never been to. So I'm going to head up from where I live in the depths of rural Norfolk to Watton on a couple of nice back roads, just to reacquaint myself with the old reliable Triumph Explorer. And then there's a great road down towards, well, sort of through the forest really, through Thetford Forest. And there's a war memorial there, well, a memorial to, I'm pretty sure it's the desert rats, and there's a tank perched on top, and I've never been able to work out whether it's a Cromwell or a Valentine. Sort of weird stuff that I ponder. So we'll have a look at that, and then probably take the road past RAF Lakenheath, RAF Mildenhall, see if there's anything flying today. I don't think they tend to fly at the weekends, so perhaps not. Head over to Cambridge, again another site that I have shamefully never visited, is the big American cemetery just outside Cambridge. We'll head over there and pay our respects, as we should. And that's probably it for the big history stuff today, unless I stumble across a pillbox or a tank ditch or something, but we shall see. For now it's what we like to call a Norfolk dual carriageway, basically a small road with anything growing in the middle. So let's see what the day brings. Well, that is definitely a Cromwell. The 7th Armoured Division Memorial, the Desert Rats. I believe their time here in Thetford Forest is the only time, as in their history, I'm not sure in their history makes sense, but certainly in the Second World War they were ever stationed in the UK, right here in Thetford Forest. And the Cromwell tank is, well, it's not my favourite tank of the war. I'm the sort of person that has a favourite tank. But it's quite interesting because the engine was a Rolls-Royce Meteor, which was effectively a retuned, rehash Merlin engine, which of course powered the Spitfire and the Lancaster and several other aircraft of World War II. Wasn't a bad tank actually. That engine meant it could, I think it could get up to 35, 40, maybe even 50 miles an hour, probably 40 miles an hour, which, I mean, by modern standards isn't bad, to be honest. I wouldn't want to go 40 miles an hour in one of those. What a great memorial. I think it had reasonable armour for the time, pretty good gun. I don't think it's the gun they wanted to put in it. 75mm I think it was. I don't know what that is in poundage. You know, that's good enough. Broadly speaking, the same tank had a much bigger gun put in it later in the war and effectively became the Comet, which certainly was one of the best tanks of the war. But this one is I can't remember if this one's a replica or a refurbished veteran vehicle. Fantastic. That looks pillboxy. Anyway, yes, definitely time for a coffee. That said, I think it may be easier said than done getting out of here. A fantastic place for a war memorial in terms of scenery. Not great for junctions. So that little turn off there is how you get to coffee stop number 1 on this little route I've done, and as you can see, it is properly in the middle of the forest. Shepherd's Bar it's called, as in B-double-A. The only challenge is finding somewhere on this where you can confidently park a bike. I think I'll go around the other side. But if you head straight down there, sorry, block the camera there, straight that way, through the gate, there's a lake. We quite often take the dog and the kiddies there. Oh! I was not expecting off-roading today. Yeah, fantastic pit stop if you're looking for one. Hello. Hello. Hello, could I have a flat white and a sausage roll, please?
Oh, of course.
Oh, that's good. Right. We are suitably refreshed. Very nice coffee and a sausage roll. And we now continue on our way. It's a great stop this, but it does get quite busy. Understandably so, it's very pleasant. So, sticking to my no plan, I'm going to get back on that main road. I'm going to swing past RAF Lakenheath, one of the biggest US Air Force sites in Europe, but if the car park at the viewing area looks busy, it's a bit bumpy, I will pull in, because you never know, you might catch a glimpse of an F-15, an F-35 or all manner of other things from the 48th Fighter Wing. If not, we'll sail on by. I will swing past RAF Mildenhall as well, which is a stone's throw away, so stay tuned for some more good roads. Gate Guardian. Ah, Ukrainian flag, that's good to see. a guy that's spending his Saturday looking at tanks, air force bases and cemeteries. Definitely been down this road before here, and every now and again you stumble across a pillbox or a spigot mortar base, because this river, which I don't know what it is, the Great Ouse, I'm not sure, was obviously a very natural defensive line in the east of England. They were effectively the phase lines that, in the event of Operation Sea Lion going ahead, which by the way was never going to happen, but let's assume it did, yeah, that you could fall back to those positions, and those rivers formed a natural, very effective barrier. Although, if I was the German army, I wouldn't want to take tanks across the fens. It's a little bit squidgy underfoot. I'd imagine they'd all get stuck, as the Russians are discovering in Ukraine at the moment. What a mess that is. So I put the American cemetery at Cambridge in the sat-nav on the twisty route, and it would take me an hour to get there. As much as I'm loving this, I actually do want to have a nice long break to have a look round and take it all in. So I'm taking a more direct route, which might take me on a busier, less interesting road, but it's 50-50 for me. When I want to ride out on my own and I want to do some history, I've got to get there. Hopefully this won't be too dull. Hit subscribe or like if you find any of this remotely interesting. I'm quite keen that these, I don't sound too soppy, but all this historical stuff is now passing from, you know, living memory. Oh, more bikers. And I think that's a real shame, but of course inevitable. So it'd be good to keep sharing, you know, the adventures and the little historical sites that you might not know about. I've got a big European trip coming up in the summer, hopefully, all being well. So I'll do lots of filming and check out some of the battlefields and the sites whilst I'm doing that, and obviously the great roads that you find in Europe. So scroll down to the little subscribe button and click and yeah, find out about what we get up to. The other thing I'm going to do is I'll plot some of these routes on my route app, or put, you know, the waypoints or the locations down in the comments, so that, you know, you haven't got to do the research yourself. You can just put them in your sat nav and off you go. That's all for the future. On we roll to Cambridge. So here we are then. Flag is at half mast. Oh, this looks like the car park. So I've just stopped at the US cemetery in Cambridge, and I didn't know this. It's the only Second World War American cemetery in Britain, and I knew this place was here, but I had no idea how, number one, how big it was, or just how, I don't know, I've been to a lot of these cemeteries in sort of continental Europe, Thiepval, Tynecott, etc. They give you this feeling in your chest, this kind of, you're just overwhelmed by the scale of the loss of the First and the Second World War and conflicts since, but there's something about the fact that this one is so close to home, and so many of the men, and I'm assuming it's all men, that are buried here would have taken off from all the airfields, you know, around where I live, and I didn't realise it was this big. There's something like 3,500 servicemen buried here, predominantly, I think, from the 8th Air Force. Yeah, there were 200,000 airmen in the 8th Air Force, and on any one raid they could put up something like 2,000 4-engine bombers and probably half that number again of fighter escorts. I mean, it's just an unfathomable amount of men and machines to us these days, and you know, so many of them are buried here. It's an amazing place, and if you're in the area, even if you're not that close, it really is worth a detour, or if you happen to be passing, pop in. It's a real testament to everything that went on. I was just wandering around, and the diversity of the names, and you know, the places that all these guys came from. Well, I can see here we've got Robert Coverstone, Frank Creek, Pestoza, Laskovich, Klein. You know, the names are from, you know, from all over. What a place. That really gets you in the chest. Right. Well, a very poignant stop this afternoon, and one that I'm very glad I've made. Time to head though. That is a fantastic place. You really must come along and see it for yourself if you haven't. You know, lots of people as part of a bike tour will stop at some of the cemeteries in France and Belgium, etc. But yeah, we've got a very important one right on our doorstep, so worth checking it out. So, where to now? So generally heading in the direction of Newmarket now. Head towards 6 Mile Bottom, because there's a really good road that cuts through in the direction of Bury St Edmunds from there. So still fantastic weather. It's about 18 and a half degrees now. I'm very happy with that. Nice wood. Definitely not lost. Definitely not lost. The fact that I had to put something into the sat-nav means almost nothing. Nice wood. And the fact that I'm turning around means very little. Just got bored of where I was, and I'm going to go somewhere else. Well, it's not the road that I was on, but it's very nice. How about that for a corner? Look at that! See? I wasn't lost. You're never lost on a motorbike. I like this road. I haven't ridden my bike for a full, long, relatively fast day for about 6 months, and I just had a bit of a getting a bit lightheaded, dehydrated and tired feeling. So I've stopped for a quick iced coffee and I feel fresh as a daisy. You can kind of see why the Ministry of Defence, or the War Office as it was at the time, thought this would be a good place to have a very large training area. You know, this is quite a good analogy for fighting in Germany, I suppose. Actually, in that direction over there, there's a large section of Thetford Forest, 5 or 6 villages in there, which in the 40s were basically forcefully evacuated for that very reason, and they're still empty today and probably a bit bombed out. I think you're allowed back once or twice a year for sort of compassionate reasons. Like I said, I'll jot some of the highlights down in the comments description box, and as always, do the YouTubey thing. Do click the subscribe button if you are interested, and a like never goes amiss as well. I'm a big fan of my bloody great big tank bag. It means I have to carry less on the back. However, it does mean that it makes it a little bit harder to read the dashboard on your bike. So much so on this occasion that I didn't see my fuel warning light come on. Which is not ideal. I've put a little bit of extortionate dual carriageway fuel in to get me home. At the end of what has been a bloody good day, actually. I've got the sun behind me. Perfect riding day. That has been an absolute blast. Give the video a like. Also on Twitter @bikerhistory and on Instagram. Quite looking forward to sharing more of these little videos with anyone else that is afflicted by the same combination of interests as me. I'll keep it up for as long as I'm interested, and if other people are interested too, fantastic. Loads of little ride outs that I want to do around the east of England. Going to the Adventure Bike Rider Festival in June in Warwickshire, so I'm sure there's some stuff to see around there. And then I'm hoping in the summer, all being well, to do a big European tour, taking in some battlefields, memorials, as well as the Alps, obviously. I haven't come up with a really cool sign-off yet, so I will just say toodaloo.